Hello, everybody. Welcome back to it's our second episode with me and Coach here. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing good. Just shuffling my cards every day, getting blisters.
You're just shuffling cards? That's what you're actually doing right now with like real cards?
I'm literally shuffling my Vader deck as we speak.
Why?
Just so I can get a little, more paper cuts on the inside of my. I don't know what this part of your body's called, but between your finger and your index finger, just
like the webbing.
Yeah, like the webbing. My web shooter.
I'll pray for you, Coach.
Yeah.
So our last podcast did pretty well. Like the one that we did a week ago now.
We're at 200 viewers, views, not viewers. But yes, same thing.
I have to tell this story. I have to. So I was really feeling myself. I already told you this story, but I want to tell our viewers, all four of them, that when I was trying to tell my wife, who's in the living room, that's where I record, she's watching TV, and I'm like, you mind if I just gotta record a podcast real quick? She's like, I listened to you last night. I'm like, yeah. She's like, who do you think you are? You have like 1 million, like you have 1 million followers? She had like a smirk on her face. I'm like, what? The podcast is doing really well. She's like, you have 200 views. I was like, oh, that hurt my feelings. It didn't really hurt my feelings. We had a good laugh out of it, but like my wife doesn't really understand the whole entertainment aspect of like games like what we're doing right now. But what she doesn't know is that a lot of people have enjoyed our little podcast there. And honestly, Coach, I don't know if you're with me on this, but even if one person enjoys it, and I know that sounds really corny, I'm happy with that. Like if one person got something out of it, that's cool. No?
Yeah, I definitely agree. That's why I like, coaching, teaching, because every time I get that one person who's really into it, or some people that message me from this podcast episode that we did, and they're really into it, and they like want to ask me questions or reach out to me. That's all I want, is someone out there who's like as excited or as into it as I am and wanting to get better and learn.
I love it. And I think we should tell them about what happened last night real quick. All right, real quick, guys. Last night we recorded. We wanted to do the long format because the first one was like so successful-ish, okay? In terms of big scope, maybe not so much. But for us who just released an episode in hopes that a couple people would enjoy it, we got 200 views out of it, 10 subscribers on my YouTube channel, a lot of comments, a lot of engagement. It was great. There was, last I checked, 2.2 thousand impressions off of our video, which means it showed up on people's front pages and home pages on YouTube and everything, which is really cool because usually, if a video is really not vibing with an audience, it doesn't get any impressions, so people don't usually click on it. So it's pretty good, and relatively, I think, what is that, like a 10% rate, roughly, 200 views. So like every 100 viewers, or every 10 impressions, we got one viewer. My math might be off, but one person clicked on it for every. Yeah, something relatively close to that. Anyway, we recorded a 2-hour session last night, guys, and it is my fault because me and Coach went off the rails. We talked about like literally everything, and I realized as I was talking to Coach, I'm like, hey, man, I'm just going to pause this really quick and just check on the video that I've been recording this whole time. And sure enough, my biggest fear was realized when I realized my mic wasn't on. The one that I'm using right now wasn't being used. I was actually seeing a feed of my webcam, which sounds like I'm talking into a foam cup. So couldn't use it. 2 hours of unusable footage, which sucks. I guess we're gonna try to hit all the points from last night, but we're gonna condense it into an hour rather than 2. And we would rather actually, before we just continue to make 2-hour-long videos and invest all that time, we want to know if you guys want that in the first place, because maybe you don't. Maybe 2 hours is a really long time. I will have to say, I think Coach agrees, a lot of the stuff we were ranting about was just kind of just like BS. It had no direction. It was just two guys talking, but maybe you like that. And if you do, then we'll keep it going. But we're not 100%. I actually posted on YouTube that, we're going to continue the long form thing, but I think I should leave it up to the people who engage with our videos. So, I don't know, Coach, do you have anything to add to that? Am I leaving anything out?
No, not too much. Just make either we can make a poll after this podcast goes live, or come down to the comments and let us know what you thought about the video, and importantly, let us know how long you want the content to be. If you're one of those like 2-3 hour enjoyers because you got a long day at the warehouse or something, or you just want those like 30-40 minutes before you go to bed, so we can more precisely get our podcast aligned with our viewers.
I love it. Right off the bat, Bendu. Why doesn't anybody use him? Go.
Bendu?
Yeah.
Is that the blue guy that my brother bought 3 copies of?
Did he?
Last week? Yes, he actually did. So why does nobody use Bendu? Well, number one, this is a 6 cost. So
Okay.
anything about the 6, you're comparing this card to basically a Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader. This is your end game, or getting to the end game card. Unfortunately, there's not enough cards in the game right now that you kind of really, really want to play that are non-rebel, non-villainy, whatever, heroism cards. And so you can't really make use of this. Now, into the future, where we might have those new cards coming out that you play from your resources, this might do something. Those cost 2 less. You might not be paying their smuggle cost, as per se. You might just playing it for their normal cost instead. And this guy's stats are, pretty solid for a 6 drop. Not too crazy, not the best. A 6-7 would have been more better, even a 5-7 or a 5-8. Doesn't have the best stats. It is a Sentinel though, so I don't think they wanted this card to be too powerful. And yeah, he's the one in the middle. It says it right there, the one in the middle. And I think he's just in the middle of everything, and he's not very good. He's just kind of there. He's a rare, not even a legendary. So yeah, he's just kind of okay. Maybe in 2-3 more sets, he might get a lot more use. And being a double aspect, you're forced to play one way. We just don't have enough cards for this guy. But this might be one of those decks where, if you play the games, artifacts aren't really a thing. You get 50,000 cards in the pool, and then this guy becomes very, very, very powerful when everything is just coming out faster. Also, Darth Vader already cheats out a card. There's Ewing reinforcements. I would not be surprised to see that, maybe we see a card that comes to the board, 3 costs, and says all blue for every single blue aspect you have on the card, it costs 1 less, and all of a sudden this guy costs 4 for a 4/7 Sentinel. Might be too strong, I don't know, but I'll be willing to pay about 5 resources for this card. 6 is a bit too much for me. I think that's why it's not being played.
Okay, fair enough. I was wondering, is there any way to cheat him out or use his attack to cheat out the next card? I think what you said is pretty on point though, because he's just you're forced to play one way, and we don't have enough cards in the card pool right now. I mean, you have to double aspect him.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. I'm sure people have tried, because we haven't seen any YouTube videos or anything like that. I don't even think there's a real answer to play this card at the moment. This card will probably catch some steam once we move into the future sets.
Fair enough. Rest in peace for now, Bendu. We will be back. So I want to ask you a question. Maybe you can share with our viewers. I want to know the best way for a new player to enter into this hobby.
Yeah, so this is something that's going around. Well, not really going around, but this is a concern in their current, Discord and communities that people are talking. Oh, you can't get a hold of boosters. You can't get a hold of whatever. And I don't own any Raiders. I don't own any Bobas and all this jazz. I don't buy booster packs. And I think that a new player getting into the game it's very easy to actually get into this game, because almost all the cards in anyone's deck are commons and uncommons. All you gotta do is, instead of going to your local game store or online on eBay or something and spending $200 on booster packs and boxes, just go on eBay or talk to your local community and end up buying a full playset of 3 of every single common uncommon. Then you will own pretty much 80-90% of all the cards printed and 3 copies of everything to make any deck you want. And that's about 50 USD on eBay, I believe, at the moment, and then shipping, whatever that costs. And then what you do is, if you want to continue down that same road, you either pick up the rares you want to make your Boba Fett deck with Fett's Fire Spray, or your Vader deck, or whatever you kind of want. Get the staples out of the way. They don't cost that many dollars. I think like, what's the most expensive rare? Fett's Fire Spray, probably.
Fett's Fire Spray, I think it's at
Yeah,
10.
$7
Actually,
or something.
things are going up. I gotta be honest. Fett's Fire Spray was at 10. It might have gone
I
up.
think it's like $7 right now. I'm pretty sure for the base cost. But either way, it's not that expensive. And then what you do is either pick up, if you want to pick up all 3 rares, or 3 times every single rare, I think it's about $300 if you can find someone selling all the rares. I think it's about 300 USD, and you could basically own every single card in the game except for legendaries. So if you tell somebody that this game you pay $350 up front and you pick up every single card except for the legendaries, I think that's a really good deal. That's the same cost. It's pretty much cheaper than buying two boxes. So instead of buying 2 boxes, pick up everything you can except for the legendaries, and then decide if you want to continue down picking up 3 Vaders, 3 Lukes, 3 Bobas, 3 whatever card you want. Right? Not everybody wants to play Boba, not everybody wants to play Darth Vader. So there's other decks out there. You can pick up Lukes, whatever you want. You can maybe buy a box after that. But getting to the game, that's how I'd recommend getting into it. Immediately buy 3 copies of every single common, uncommon, and then proceed to build the deck you want. And if you want to go a certain way, like build Luke Skywalker or Darth Vader, or I play Grand Inquisitor. Grand Inquisitor is a very, very cheap deck, and go into whatever hero you kind of want after that point, and then decide to pay whatever amount of money you want. And just remember, in this game at the moment, because everything is, and I think moving forward, we've seen the new set, there's a really, really strong cards that are going to be coming out that are literally uncommon or common. And I think that's a really good thing they're doing at the moment, where you don't need a deck full of legendaries to be able to play it. You can just have currently the Vader starter deck with like 6 common cards that you add onto it, 3 rare cards, and then you add on 3 Darth Vaders, which are your legendaries, right? And everything excluding the Darth Vaders don't cost a lot of money. If you want to get 3 Traitorous, 3 Palpatines, making your 6 rares, that's about $12. And then all the uncommon common cards are like 10 cents a card. So you kind of end up making 47 out of 50 cards are perfect. And then all you gotta do is say, hey man, I own 47 out of 50, whatever percentage that is. That's like 90 whatever percent. And then you add in 3 Vaders when you want, or when the prices go down, or you just find an alternative to the Darth Vaders and you play the game. And you're still going to be very competitive, like I am on the Discord.
Yeah, I I agree with pretty much everything you said. Believe it or not, I think the most expensive rare right now is Red 3 at $15 at the time of recording. Followed up closely by K2SO, and that's actually, they're both more expensive than almost double the cost of Fett's Fire Spray, which is actually kind of surprising to me. But the problem is with Red 3 and K2SO that they're must-haves for like a Leia deck or a Sabine deck, where you're like, you have to go aggro. And don't get me wrong, Fett's Fire Spray is also, but I think in terms of like, the whole point is like of an aggro deck is to have these 2 cards are so imperative to the strategy. Red 3 just giving raid 1 to everything, and K2SO obviously sometimes sneaking in 7 damage in 1 turn is just insane value. So, but yeah, for the most part, like some of the most powerful cards in the game, Overwhelming Barrage, like what our podcast name is based off of, 70 cents. You see in some of like the cards that are in like the top tier decks are going for like really, really cheap. Season Shore Trooper, huge card, 5 cents. So there are ways, like you said, get into the game without actually breaking the bank. The problem is the really, really good legendaries are the issue, and really the gatekeeping comes from really wanting to go full out. Yeah, Steadfast Battalion, 5 cents. But if you want to go full out, you want Vader, you want Luke, you want Boba Fett. I think we said it yesterday in our failed podcast that if it, excuse me, I was raising my chair and I was like coughing at the same time. If they weren't those three in particular, Boba, Luke, Vader, like if it wasn't for the names, then they wouldn't be as expensive. But I don't think their abilities would be as good either. But let's just say they did swap the abilities with Vader and Steadfast Battalion, for instance. Like would he be as expensive? Probably. Like Steadfast Battalion's going for 5 cents, but if that said Darth Vader on him, he'd probably be a much more
Going
expensive.
for more, yeah.
Maybe. I would think just because it's Vader, but yeah, you don't have to break the bank. God dang, he's going for a lot right now. You know what I'm actually excited to see? My Mace Windu that I pulled in my box opening is going for, it's the hyperspace. It's going for $31 right now.
Yeah.
That's a lot because it was when I first pulled it, it was going for like 11.
Yeah, the cards are really, really cheap, and then as the stock ran out, the cards went up, and also people wanted to complete their collections. So I feel like, dude, people went like, they kind of like all joined the ship all in one go and like went for the same card at the same time and then moved on to the next card when that card got too expensive. And it's just like kind of crazy to me, because if I was going to collect all the cards, which some people did, but in general, I would just, buy everything on the same day, not go from card to card to card just because YouTube videos told me to. Like, I don't know what other people are doing out there, but yeah.
Yeah, I don't even think, well, I guess we'll get to that in a moment. So, we're like 16 minutes in. Would you like to really quickly give like a brief, because I think people would be interested in the cards that were leaked, as well as our impressions of the smuggle keyword that is, or smuggle ability that they premiered for us.
Smuggle keyword.
Yes, sir.
So, if you want to rant on for a second, I'm just gonna.
No, let's try not to. We did last night. Let's figure out how we can. Let's get it to a shorter time frame. Let's see.
Right. In that amount of like 30 seconds, I pulled up the cards.
Yeah.
That's all I needed. That little bit of discussion, keep the viewers entertained. So calculated lethality. Just joking.
The general consensus that we came to last night was that smuggle is as cool. Like, we appreciate that they're trying to go for something, but I think at the end of the day, you and I both have this fear that it's gonna be more of a problem than an ability that we can get behind. We have different reasonings behind it. My big one is that as a player who's like as a good player, you're almost always going to look at your face down cards as if you have a smuggle, even if you don't. So it's gonna really cause these mind games, because if I'm playing smuggle, even if I'm not playing smuggle cards, I'm gonna make you think I'm playing smuggle cards. If I'm not laying them down. The other thing is memory. I gotta remember all the freaking cards that I've been putting down. Now the resources I usually set and forget. That's not something that we can really do anymore, because 3, 4, 5 of those cards might have smuggle on them, and I don't know, maybe it'd be nice when you're like, oh crap, I'm out of moves, let me see what else I got down here. Oh yeah, I laid this card down before, I could use that. And it increases kind of the size of your hand in a sense. It gives you more options, but I don't know if this game needs that right now, unless there's like a really good reason to not do that. I guess if when the other cards come out, like maybe that's not an ideal thing. Maybe target a card that your opponent has in the resource row. If it has, flip it up face up. If it says smuggle, discard it. I don't know, like, is there a workaround that maybe like we don't even know about yet? Because then you really don't want to give away those cards locations, right? Is it going to mean people are shuffling up their resources? Like, I don't know. I get it. It's a cool keyword in the sense of like, if this were a game on a PC and like strictly digital, I think it's kind of cool because it's easy to just like hover over a face down card and like it just a big pop-up comes up and you can see, what it does and everything. But I think another thing that we're afraid of too is that it's going to slow the game down immensely. Maybe you can take it from here, but like that's something that I think you were worried about.
Yeah, I was worried about the time. People are gonna have 10 card hands because they have 5 smuggles. It's gonna slow the game down because people are gonna be, always triple, quadruple checking what cards they have in their face down pile, essentially. And then you're pretty much, if they do introduce cards that say destroy a resource that your opponent has, or target a resource and destroy it, or like your opponent flips like 2 out of their whatever resource they have. Let's say they have 6, you pick 2 of them, they flip them. If there is a smuggle card among them, destroy that card, right? They could introduce cards like this, and at that point you're in Yu-Gi-Oh, you have 5 card zones. And eventually, when I first started playing Yu-Gi-Oh way back in the day, you were kind of allowed to move your spell trap cards around the board just so you can make room for your like hand, or if it was like really tight space. Nowadays, it's trap card zone 1 through 5. You cannot move the card from zone 1 to zone 3 just because you're playing, and you can just, wanting to move it over. And one of the bigger reasons for that is because, well, in Yu-Gi-Oh, you can actually stop people from playing cards into certain zones, or whatever. But more importantly, you're not allowed to manipulate where you place the card. So if you keep looking at the card in zone 1, aka your first resource that you put down in Star Wars, you can't just now put into resource number 8 on the 7th turn and then look at it over there. Or when the opponent does play a card telling you to discard one of them, or targeting the first resource you put down, saying, hey, he probably put down a big card at the beginning of the game, or a really, really good card earlier on to the game, right? Using that, a percentage possibility chance and some sort of like thought behind it. You can't shuffle it up and tell your opponent to pick one. That would get rid of all the point of like the discarding something, essentially, and the advanced thinking behind it. So I don't know what rules are going to implement or change. Maybe they say that, okay, smuggle cards, when you play them as your resource, they have to be face up. That would be a good, easy fix to it. But then your opponent would always know what you have, and it wouldn't be such a mind game. The bigger concern I had with smuggle and this keyword, and the people on the Discord that I talk to, just every now and then, the community essentially, they did agree that this card or this keyword came out too quickly. This keyword was probably meant for set like 3 or 4, generally 4, much further down, because as a advanced player, I can abuse this card and memorize cards and what people have in the deck, what are good cards, what are bad cards. Already when I'm playing this game, it's been like about a month. Even now, I have players feeling bad because I play a card called Traitorous. I have a card that does something, or they don't expect something. Now with Smuggle, they're not going to have all these Smuggle cards memorized, and they're definitely not going to know what's in my deck when we're just playing like on TTS or on whatever. There's going to be playing, so I can put in a Smuggle card into a color that does not match up with my base or my leader, because there's a new card, Timely Intervention. This card is so powerful, at least from where we're looking at it at the moment, that it should be going to every single deck, whether it matches with your colors or not. And the newer players are going to have a really hard time, not only keeping track of their own smuggles, but then also trying to remember that, hey, yes, my opponent can play this card and completely outwit me. And it's going to be a gotcha moment, as some might refer to in other games. And it's going to be a really feels bad, because when you think you're winning the game, when you think you have a good chance against somebody, he just absolutely crushes you because you got blindsided. And it's not going to be fun. It's going to take all the fun out of the game because you're really trying to play and have fun, and then he plays a card out of nowhere and you're like, dude, what do I even do? It's another like hurdle to get over and another thing to master and memorize. I think one of the big things about this game is people always forget to do something. People always forget that the card exists. Especially when they're just playing casually at their local store. They just won't be at that level, and I think it's going to upset some people.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to agree with you on that. It's one of our fears, and I think it will be realized, because even if you like your design ability around these games is for a reason, I get Smuggle. Like, I get why they made it, and I really think it's thematic. It's like you're sneaking something in behind the, you know what I mean, that you shouldn't have. But sometimes, and in game design theory, one of the things, as you know, I like to design games in my spare time. Is that sometimes the way you design it isn't the way the players will pick it up and play it. And sometimes a game designer needs to go back and go, well, we designed it for this purpose, but we only see players when play testing. Because a lot of the times it's like they hide behind a window type of thing and just let the players play. Like, let them play with the toys that you gave them and see what they do and come up with. And sometimes it blows the designers' minds when they're just like, I didn't even think about that. But the play testers came up with this way of playing the card, or playing. A lot of this can be video game design theory as well. And then you start seeing all these different ways that they're playing with it that you never intended it to be used for. And I think, for me personally, the scariest thing is just like the meta mind games of just like pretending you have smuggle cards. How many people, you'd be foolish not to. I want my opponent to think I have tricks up my sleeve, because otherwise, otherwise he's gonna play me just, expecting that I don't have anything, and maybe I don't have anything, and this is my point. By not looking, I'm also doing a mind game. Maybe I'm really, really smart and I remember everything that I have, and my opponent's got to also think like, oh, what kind of player do I think he is? Is he the type of player that I think he would already know? Like, what the cards that he laid down? It's a lot. And like you said, fourth set makes way more sense than set 2. I mean, we got a lot of keywords already, dude. Like, a lot. Not to mention the capture ability of the new one, like of set 2 coming out. And now there's like technically rescuing is an ability too. Like, I didn't even really think, I just thought you kill whoever's holding your captured unit hostage. If you return them to hand or kill them or whatever, that you basically just get your unit back. I didn't know it was literally called rescuing, but now we have a card that literally says rescue a unit captured by a guarded unit. So it's like, it's a lot, and I don't know if for such a brand new game that this keyword is going to be as fun as the designers want it to be. That's just our opinion, or my opinion anyway.
Yep, definitely a lot to take in with this new mechanic coming into play.
So let's try and keep, like, we'll go through the cards real quick that they revealed yesterday, and I think try to break them down as long, like no longer than a minute each. You game for that?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay, Cartel Turncoat is a 1-cost space unit. It's a 2/3. It's finally here, a 1-cost 2/3 in space with the bounty keyword, a new keyword, by the way. Draw a card. So real quick, bounties are, what we learned yesterday is like some units will have bounty on them, and that's just an inherent ability that when defeated, the opponent gets to use that ability. So in this case, if I played bounty and my opponent killed my card with bounty, they get to draw a card, which is pretty powerful. But the thing is, with bounty, it is something too that we figured this out yesterday. It's not something you can get away from, so you can't kill your own unit and collect your own bounty. If that unit ever dies and it has a bounty on it, then your opponent's gonna get to do that ability. If you're playing Twin Suns and there's 4 players and you kill your own unit, you actually get to choose who gets that bounty. Like, if I'm responsible for my bounty being killed, I don't get it, but I get to choose what opponent gets it. And then another thing is, if opponent A puts a bounty on my unit and opponent B kills that unit, then opponent B gets the thing. Whoever kills that unit or captures that unit gets the bounty. Which, it's set 2, for God's sakes. That's a lot. That's a lot.
It's a lot of bounty.
It's just a lot of information. It's a lot of new rules for a game that just came out. But that's my take on it. I like the card. I guess that was just the explanation of bounty. I like the card. I like the idea that it's a 1-cost. I did say in our previous podcast that they're going to start releasing cards with bounty, and it'll give them a reason to kind of underprice the card. So, we don't see 2 3s for 1. The idea is that you're going to pay on the back end, sort of like in Pokemon. Your EX cards give your opponent 2 prizes, even though you can get them out faster. On the back end, you're paying more for them once they're defeated, and I think it's kind of the same thing here. But it's a cool card. I like that. I like the colors that it's in. Makes sense. Anything to say yourself?
It's gonna be a really good aggressive card. That's all I gotta really say about it. I'm gonna play it if it gets through the playtesting, because the deck is efficient enough to actually win games really, really quickly because of this card. like Sabine Yellow, for example, then it's gonna see a lot of play. There's a lot of one drops that we're seeing, and that's kind of gonna move on to our next card, Hot Shot DL44 Blaster.
Let's get it.
Yeah,
Go
one
ahead.
for aggression. Aggression is its only aspect, one cost, and it's attached to a non-vehicle unit. It's got Smuggle for 3, and its Smuggle aspect is actually yellow, which got us thinking that this is going to be played in more yellow decks than red decks. And then its ability is when played using Smuggle, attack with attached unit. It's an item card upgrade that gives you +2 attack, +0 defense. I think this card is good. It's a rare card, by the way, guys, and this card is going to be a really solid card. It's another one cost that goes with Cartel Turncoat, aka a yellow-red deck, or just a pure yellow deck, going full-blown aggro. The community members that I've talked to, my own feedback of this card, I do like the low-cost cards that are meant for aggro. I love playing aggro, and I think this card is going to be, well received, well put into a lot of decks. And this card plus Cartel Turncoat are both cards that are going to see a lot of testing early on, and then we'll see if they come through in final decks like a month in.
Yeah, I don't think you're playing this card. I mean, I'm sorry. I don't think if you're running yellow, you're not playing this card. At least in your sideboard, like at the very end of it, like it just does so much for you. Like 3, yeah, you're adding a +2/+0, a permanent +2/+0. And correct me if I'm mistaken here, but it is not a unique card, so you can have more than one on a unit, right? You can dual wield this thing, right?
You can dual wield. Yeah, I was gonna say try wield if you got 3 hands, but yeah.
Right. So yeah, pretty much what you said, I agree with. If you're running red, I think we said yesterday, if you're running red, you would still play this because it's a very cheap cost, basically +2/+0. I mean, it's kind of like experience. You're just putting both points of value into the strength and not, evenly 1/1. You're putting both points into the attack value. So I think it's still a good card in red too. But yeah, if you're playing yellow, I don't see a reason why you're not putting this in your deck. Like it's a smuggle target, which is going to be, obviously they're really pushing smuggle, especially in this set. So you got to join the fun. Join the fun or get left behind, man. And I think in terms of getting left behind, there's no way you can get left behind without a timely intervention. So I think it's your favorite card of these reveals.
I think it's everyone's favorite. Actually, my favorite card of these reveals, yes.
Well, in terms of power level,
definitely Calculated Lethality is my favorite card.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I like that card. But you're so good at like using your tools. So I'm sure it'll have a lot more value in your decks than mine, but I like Calculated Lethality myself. But Timely Intervention is a 1-cost green card, so it's a command aspect. It's just basically play a unit from your hand, give it ambush for the phase, which we know ambush is probably one of the most, if not the most, strong ability in the game. And then as a smuggle cost, which just costs 2 command, and it basically allows you to do this from your resource row. Excuse me. And real quick, I just want to also just on terms of the rules of smuggle, you can smuggle in the card that you use to pay for the card. So I don't know if you knew that, but if like this is in your resource row and you have to pay 2 for it, you can actually exhaust this card as one of the cards that you're exhausting, and another card. Then you get to play this card. And then you take the top card of your deck and you add it to your resource row exhausted. So it's actually pretty meta that anytime you do use a card that you're smuggling in, that you also exhaust the card that you're smuggling, because it's for that reason. Yeah, otherwise you're actually giving yourself an extra exhausted resource, which doesn't make any sense. So one of the things that you have to teach people when they're learning the game is, hey, there's this ability called smuggle. By the way, you should. I'm picturing myself explaining this to people right now, and I'm just like already my head's starting.
It's like the Han Solo, like resource then tap for Falcon, or resource then break apart whatever cards you want, essentially.
So, what do you think?
Yeah, I think this card's broken. I think everybody knows it's broken, and everyone's gonna be running 3 of it. And I would not even be surprised if you saw this in every single deck, period, no matter what aspects they're running, even if they're double blue or something. This card is just that good. And yeah, that's all I gotta say about it. Get 3 copies, put 3 into your deck, play it on launch, and destroy your opponents, I guess.
So basically, it's worth paying plus 4 resources if you're not running any green at all. Take this card, resource it, and then you're not running any green, so you're paying 4 for the smuggle cost. So 4 plus whatever it is that you're playing, give it ambush. Is it worth it?
That's super worth it.
Okay. All right. I'm with it. Let's move on to Privateer Crew, which is a 2-cost command card. I say command. I learned the aspects, and I like using the aggression, command, vigilance, and heroism, villainy, and cunning. These are all I like it, but I guess everybody says yellow, red, green. I think
everybody says color. I think people are catching on because it is still brand new. So people are trying to learn it and just say it because your brain doesn't have it automatically equipped to just.
It's weird though. My brain sees the icon and I want to say command. I want to say aggression. I want to say cunning. And I think the reason why they named the cards in each color after what the actual aspect is called is to teach people, probably because now cunning is a card as well as an aspect. Kind of helps you to remember the name of the aspect.
Probably why they did that.
Yeah. So Privateer Crew is a ground unit. It costs 2. It is under the command, aka green. It's a 2/2 underworld card with smuggle 6. If this card is a resource, you may play it for its smuggle cost. Obviously, right? I'm reading the freaking ability. But when played using smuggle, give 3 experience tokens to this unit. Me and you differed on what this card is. So why don't you go first, there, Coach?
So I think this is a card. You're like, hey, what's my early game card? I need a card to play in the first turn. Perfect. 2 for 2/2. I don't care. I'm playing it because I don't think else to play. My hand isn't bad. Hey, did I draw 2 of these in the opening turn or moving on into the game? This is a perfect card to just put into your resource. Automatically, this will always go into your resource because it's smuggle. And then on top of that, later into the game, you're running out of cards. You need a 5/5 beat stick. A 6 cost for 5/5 is pretty vanilla and pretty solid. I'll pay that much resource to get an extra card on the board when I don't have much else to play. Especially in our hands where we have 10 energy and we draw 2/2 drops. Well, instead of playing those, I'll play this and have a big beat stick that can trade and do some damage.
Yeah, I mean, it's a 5/5. Is 5/5 for 6 worth it?
It's pretty worth it, especially when you're not trying to play it. You're just trying to. It's just backup, and it's a really good backup. You're never going to be upset when you're out of things to do and you kind of have this 6 cost 5/5. You're always going to be like, oh, I have this 6 cost 5/5 later into the game. I can just put down a 5/5.
Yeah, because I'm trying to figure out how it's gonna work, right? Because to me, all the things are going off. Okay, number one, I don't want to play this card for 2 resources because if I do, it's a 2/2. It's a stinky card. There's so many more better options, right? So there's that. Excuse me. However, if I do play it for its smuggle cost, which to me is the only real reason to play it, I'm getting a 5/5 for 6. Now you have so many options outside of a 5/5 for 6. That's a 5/5 for 6 vanilla, by the way. And then me and you both were talking about calculated lethality. Which to be fair, you thought of calculated lethality in a better way than I did. However, I'm just I don't know. I'm thinking it is susceptible to calculated lethality. And to be used against you. You just paid 6 resources for a 5/5 exhausted card.
Yes.
When Steadfast Battalion comes in for 1 less resource, hear me out here. Steadfast Battalion comes in for 1 less resource. It is Overwhelm, and it's potentially a 7/7.
Yeah.
And it's cheaper.
You don't want to look at these cards because you can't compare it to a 5/5, a 6/6. You're comparing it to, I have nothing left in the deck. I'm running out. We are top decking. We have 10, 11, 12 resources. What do you do now? You didn't draw the Avenger. You drew like a 2/2 and some early game cards. Now you play the Privateer Crew, and it buys you time. And speaking about Calculated Lethality, yes, that card is amazing. I love it. And all I want to do is play this card on turn 10 and have like a 1/1 dude ready to go. Play this, Calculated Lethality, my own card, kill it, and move all the XP tokens onto that other guy, and then swing for game.
But you're not going to have resources for Calculated Lethality until the next turn. Because you play this thing for 6, you probably, if you're at 10 resources and you played this for 6.
Yes, and then you play 4 for Calculated Lethality.
Yeah. Then but you gotta have 10 resources for that.
Yeah, the whole point of this card is to play it when you're at 10, 11, 12 resources. You're not playing this on turn 6.
Okay,
so don't think about any of these smaller cards as you're trying to play it like as fast as possible. So, this is desperation point, basically.
Okay. I feel like the overall theme of this card should have reflected more of a desperation measure than like Desperation Crew, and you just see people headed like covering their heads and there's just blasts flying over them or whatever, and they're trying to run to the front line.
Kind of, maybe they did think about it, maybe they didn't. This is a Privateer Crew, so you're kind of being like, hey, I'm out of supplies myself. I'm gonna privately hire somebody out there, aka these guys, and they're gonna come in and help me out while I kind of establish what I want to do for the next turn and get some more cards in my hand and don't rely on outside help. So that's basically what this is. You're hiring private help in the case of an emergency, and
you're sneaking them in the back of your
exactly.
The van, right?
Like, hey, I'll pay you 6 resources, you come in because all my guys are dead, but I'm not gonna tell you that.
All right, fair enough. We're gonna have to wait and see. But otherwise, I'm not too impressed with this card. You are, and we're just gonna have to wait and see. For all I know, I'm just being completely ignorant, and I have no idea how good this card is actually gonna be. Yeah, but I'm totally willing not to die on this hill. I'm make me a believer. I will totally change and just totally like agree with you all the way. All right, Cross here is our 5th card we're talking about here is a 4-cost ground unit with command villainy. He's just following orders, man. He's a 2/6 Imperial Clone Trooper with 2 actions, which I believe, I may be mistaken, but I think that's the first card that has 2 straight up actions, like not like an innate ability and an action, but just like 2 straight up actions. But I could be wrong. Comment below if I'm wrong. I'm actually curious. So it costs 2 resources for his first action. This unit gets +1/+0 for this phase, and his second action is to exhaust it. This unit deals damage equal to his power to an enemy ground unit. Go ahead.
Yeah. Well, all I said in my comment in my own Discord was the first half of this card was so bad that they had to make a second half. They had to give it a second ability pretty much. Its stat line 4 for a 2/6. Cool, solid. Nothing really, I'm not really commenting about that too much. Paying 2 resources is awful to get +1. I wish it was just 1. And then also the tapping to deal damage is cool, so trying to get like upgrades on this card is nice, but you're not doing any of these. You're trying to play a good 4-drop and then you're gonna do something else. Now I don't know if they're gonna have cards come out that just say, hey, when you use an action, use this ability twice, right? I don't know, but this card is absolute garbage in my opinion, and it's gonna never be. It's never gonna be any of my decks.
I'm trying to look at ways that he can be used. Essentially, what this card is saying is, hey, I don't have to take damage when I attack you if I don't want to. I don't have to hit your base. I can literally attack yours. This is one thing that, well, no, I guess that's not true. I was gonna say that 7th Sister can't do is just straight up attack like a sentinel in a sense, but she kind of can. She could ping a sentinel for 3, and this guy is like a ping for 2 at first, unless you boost him up. But essentially, I think he's just he's a thick boy, right? He's a 2/6, but turn 3, which is when you can, as early as I think I think if you play it turn 3, it's a really strong play. I don't know, I could be wrong. But it survives things like if it survives Force Choke, it survives Open Fire. It survives a lot of things other than like Vanquish. and like obviously situational power of the dark side, it survives a lot of things. Like 6 health is that is in itself like a good effect. Like having 6 health puts you out of range for a lot of kill cards. And then your opponent really does have to kind of concentrate a lot of their energy on you, because this guy can be a problem because he doesn't take any damage in return. He doesn't have to openly engage with anything. Like he snipes. Like that's the theme of the card, right? So if I want to hit your Sentinel and I happen to put a couple experience tokens on this guy, let's like just say Grand Moff Tarkin puts experience tokens on Imperial units. All of a sudden I do that, and this guy is like let's just say he's a 4/8, because I've just kind of been boosting him up a little bit. Well, he's out of reach for calculated lethality. First off, he's never in range for that. But so the experience tokens don't just go away. But he's dealing 4 damage. Like he's pinging 4 damage. He's an 8 health guy. I have to concentrate on this guy. Like I have to take him out. There's nothing else you can do. So my
problem with this card is that I don't want to play a 2 for 6. Okay, I don't care about this guy's ability. When you play this against me, here's what's gonna happen. So I play a card, you play a card, or even on turn 2. Okay, and then you play this guy on your next turn, and I look at you like, okay, I don't care. I'm not gonna play a better unit overall that has like 5 or 6 toughness, like Kanan Jarrus or whatever, a 4 or 5, and he's gonna keep swinging at your base until you're dead while you're trying to take actions and play Crosshair, and you're gonna have like 8 damage on your base. And you're gonna be like, okay, well I just took 8 damage and I can finally use Crosshair's ability. Like, why? I don't care about this card at all, especially the whole paying 2 for an action. On my next turn, I'd rather play a 5-drop than even care about this. The best thing I see this thing being used for is to kill things at 2 health that were left over from the early game, or to build up XP tokens or something on this guy. If you're trying to do that, the meta is gonna, like, when this card comes up, people are gonna start seeing, oh, Crosshair, give him upgrades, give him XP tokens. Well, when you do that, I'm just gonna kill it. The next turn, I'm gonna vanquish this thing, wait for you to put tokens on it, kill it, take down part of the dark side. I don't care what I gotta do. I'll kill it, and then I'll still keep hitting your bait because you invested all these resources into a card that needs more resources to be useful. I'd rather have a 3-cost 2/6 with no abilities that just can keep swinging and taking, being a chump blocker essentially. This guy can be a chump blocker, but he's too expensive. He's too good. If he just came in and said, hey, play me for 2/6, deal 2 damage to a unit once, I'd rather just have that. Or even an action of pay 2 and deal 2 damage to a unit without taking any back. I think that's fine, which is what he does. You tap him as an action. But I don't like this guy. He's too much of a build up. It takes too much time. He costs 4, which is almost to the point where the games are ending, especially against aggro decks. And against like mid to late game decks, you play this, I can play another resupply and just chill because you have put no pressure on me, and then you're gonna lose because I'm out resourcing you. I'm getting to the late game. You're not gonna be doing. You don't want to do 2-3 damage to something, and then they're playing bigger and bigger monsters while you're trying to tap this thing. You're losing initiative because you keep putting more actions onto yourself. Not a fan of this at all.
Yeah, I think the last thing I'll leave it with is like we're talking about like in terms of just raw stats. I mean, Jabba the Hutt is a 2/8, and he doesn't see a lot of play as much as you would think. I'm sure he will definitely go. I mean, some cards run him, but it's more niche, like to have Jabba in your deck. And he's a 2/8, and he actually has a pretty good ability. Whereas like you find a trick card and they cost cheaper, So and trick cards are really, especially in cunning, they're really strong cards. And he doesn't see a lot of play, and I just don't think what this guy offers is what people are gonna be looking for. But hey, I think you're in my boat, man. I'm willing to be wrong, but you gotta prove me wrong. If I see this guy go off and people figure him out, cool. I'm totally down to run some crosshairs in my deck. And the fact that he's a unique kind of sucks a little bit too, because
Yeah, we might see a Imperial like clone / trooper commander who comes in and says, hey, give your trooper +3/+3 XP tokens for a 5-drop. If
Oh,
that happens, and then on turn 5 you play +3/+3, this guy becomes a 5/9, and then starts tapping. Okay, I'll be scared. But then this is not the card that's gonna like be the one doing all the work. It's gonna be the other card. This card's just gonna be reaping the benefits. So
yeah. This may
Yeah.
be just like a card that fits in one style of deck, and
yeah.
it's not for obviously every deck. All right, let's move on to our second to last card. It is an event card. It costs 1 unexpected escape. It is in the vigilance aspect. It is a trick card. We were just talking about Jabba the Hutt. It's very simple. Exhaust a unit. You may rescue a captured card guarded by that unit. So any card that's been captured, it's 1 cost, get it back.
Now I know you like this card because I agree as well. When paying 1 to just exhaust a unit is fantastic. Pay 1, exhaust a unit, play whatever else you want. You've dealt with the problem for that turn. You're good. And then on top of that, you get another thing that just says rescue a card. That's even better because it is a 2-for-1 for only 1 energy, which is awesome. And I agree with that. I don't see this card being super valuable at the moment from what we've seen. Unless a super amazing card comes out that's like a legendary that starts capturing 2 cards, or is a capture machine, or it's just a really, really strong card that like Darth Vader power level at the moment where it's like mandatory, needed $100 card or something, and it's in everyone's deck, or it's in like the Mandalorian deck, and you need this card to get away from it. Otherwise, you kind of lose the game because it might capture it, and let's say if it captures a card, it gains permanent stats. Or something happens and you have to give it the captured card for it to happen. Or if a card comes out that's a 0/0, but it gains the same stat line as the captured card, right? That'll be a really interesting card, and then you might see this card a lot more. Kind of be like a traitorous, and this would be the counter to it. I don't see it because this most of the sideboard card, which I'm cool with when you're versing Mandalorian and Cunning decks. I dig it in that. The same way that what's that red card that destroys an upgrade?
Oh,
I forget what it's called, but that red card essentially is only seen in the sideboard. It's never seen it's not a card that you really say, oh, this is a good card. It's like, okay, I can see where it's gonna work. Destroy an upgrade, cool. This card says basically exhaust the unit, get rid of the captured, rescue the card that it has captured. Cool. I'm not putting it in my main board. I'm not building around it.
were you talking about Fang Fighter, or were you talking about Power Carrier?
Fang Fighter. Yeah, Fang Fighter is the card that you don't see being played. I'm not putting into my main board.
It's a sideboard card for sure, especially against
so
blue.
You're gonna see this in sideboards, and it's gonna really rely on if a deck comes out or a card comes out that is extremely powerful and captures a lot. If you see a lot of captures, you're gonna see 3 of these in every single sideboard. We're gonna see 1, maybe 2 slipped into a main board in a control deck where they don't want their cards being captured.
Yeah, I mean, for the most part, I think you hit the nail on the head a little bit with in terms of the way I felt about this card and the way you feel about it, right? But it gives. First off, I like seeing tricks in a different aspect. I don't know. Did we have tricks in blue before? Are tricks?
I don't know, but I do like that.
I like that there's a trick in blue. Yeah, I'm just really quickly going through. We have Moment of Peace, Innate Tactic, Force, Tactic. No, we didn't have any tricks in blue. I think it was strictly a cunning keyword. So it's nice to see that. Granted, blue's kind of really annoying right now because it's one of the strongest decks in the game is a control Aiden deck. So giving it more tricks is maybe not the most fun thing to see, but I do like that they're spreading around some of the
combos, the Jabba the Hutt, the keywords.
Exactly. And it does give blue a new weapon. And we playing Mandalorian against a blue deck may not be as effective, or anyone that captures units is not as effective now. Once you know that what each deck wants to do, there's a chance that they have unexpected escape in there. And I don't know. The thing is, capturing gets rid of everything on that unit. So if a unit's ready to die and then it gets captured, it loses all those damage counters. So you're effectively healing my unit when I kill yours or yours is removed from the field. If that happens, I get my unit back exhausted, but it has no damage on it anymore. So you healed it up for me. Thank you. So, I mean, again, all these cards are very situational. I like Unexpected Escape though. it may very well prove, I think it's going to prove to be one of the top cards that is used in terms of getting, like capture's a mechanic that they're going with here. So if they're really pushing hard on capture, this literally is the counter to it. So I think it will see a lot of play, but we got to see how prevalent capture is. Maybe capturing just sucks, but I believe the playtesters probably did their homework, and we'll see a little bit of capturing definitely in the next set. And if we do, this is a must-have. At least in a deck that's running blue, especially if there's a potential of going up against a deck that's really pushing capturing. If we know a Mandalorian deck really wants to capture, so
I could definitely see this being one of my personal solution to all these capture cards are going to be just to kill it, just vanquish it, take down. And that's what I don't like about this thing, is that it exhausts. Exhausting is cool, it's very cheap, but my main solution is I want to get rid of the problem permanently, not just solve it for a little bit.
Yeah, and that makes sense. Let's move on to our last card. It is a space unit. It is a 5 cost. It's called Vigilant Pursuit Craft. It is of the Vigilance aspect once again. It's a vehicle transport at 3 attack, 5 defense. It's a sentinel with the smuggle keyword. For 7 with Vigilance, you can smuggle this thing in. Go ahead. I know you love this card.
Yeah, I love it so much that I'm probably just... It's going to stay in my collection pile forever because I don't want it to get damaged or ever see the light of day, So pretty much I'm never going to play this card ever. And we're going to see much better cards. I'd rather play the vanilla, no aspect, 4/4 Sentinel 4/4, I think it is, from the first set. And I think this card has pretty much no value. I think this card is just garbage. And you might see it when you're drafting, just because if the game goes late, you can play this out very late into the game, or because it's a blue aspect card and you just run it to have a flyer Sentinel hanging about, trying to make as much use of it as you can. Pretty much it.
Yeah, that really does kind of hit the nail on the head there. I don't know. I think we covered all the cards that they released. We did hear yesterday that there are not going to be reprinting set 1 up until as late as holiday 2024, which is a little sad. The news kind of sucks here and that. So we know the prices are going to go up a little bit just because of the lack of product. So I think by the time, I don't know, is it safe to say by the time set 3 is ready to come out that set 1 gets its reprint?
Possibly somewhere around there, but probably not. And I don't know. We don't know how much they're gonna be resupplying of set 1 either. If it's gonna be like a lot, if it's gonna be like an okay amount that everyone's gonna buy it and it's gonna kind of run out again. I'm gonna be in the same boat where like set 1 just doesn't exist. I have no idea. I do expect the player base to go up by about closer to 50%, if not at least the products that are being sold will go up by 50% sales in total than what they had for the first set, for the first month. I think there's gonna be a lot more new players coming in for the second set. The game's gonna be catching even more steam, and obviously everybody who's currently playing is gonna be pretty into the new cards, the new showcases, the new leaders, which the new mechanic. It's gonna be a lot to take in and a lot more stuff to spend our money on.
Yeah, like you said, about 50% increase. That's probably expected. I mean, we've probably already, since week 2 or whatever to where we are now, it's probably already seen like 100% increase. Like it's probably doubled. Or is that 200% increase?
Probably.
Take what we had, and I think it's doubled. One of the things I was talking about yesterday was, I'll just really touch on this quickly, is that I liked that everyone's coming from different card games. And one of the things that I really liked about that, most primarily, is I'm seeing a lot of Magic players who have a lot of experience with Magic. They've played Magic for years. And yet when they're playing this game, I can tell that the moves aren't obvious to them. Like, not the cards that they got to resource, that's not obvious. The cards that they want to play, because now they have to think action by action rather than turn to turn. They can't just do a bunch of stuff and then, hope to just like throw you back so far that you can't catch up. It's like one action per person. So I'm seeing what I like is that Magic players specifically, who let's be real, are really, well, I guess that's not true. Everybody, there's the big three, or at least Yu-Gi-Oh and Magic are both very combo heavy, I think. But seeing a Magic player kind of like work in terms of, I got to think this whole thing through. Like, I've seen Magic players not so confident with their move plays and actually making bad plays, which to me says that this game is a lot more, like, there's a lot more depth in it than its basic concept is alluding to, in a sense. You were saying yesterday, I keep saying yesterday, guys, again, because we had a failed podcast. We just did not record I didn't record the audio properly. But one of the things that Coach was saying yesterday is that the game is appearing to be too easy, at least in the beginning. Like it was. I mean, you really care to kind of go in a little further on that real quick, Coach?
So I think I'm just gonna use my brother, my dad, anyone who is let's say a casual competitive player who joins your competitive scene. He wants to pick up a card or two, and he wants to play. He's gonna be tinkering, building decks, thinking about combos, thinking about all this stuff. So it's not like they're not competitive. They're just not at the top of the tables, and you'll see them creep up to top 4, top 8 every now and then. They talk about it, they have fun with it, and they're more on the casual side, but they're not like super casual. They still want to be competitive, and they still want to dig into it. Like basically, most players. I think for most players around that level, yes, they're gonna have some difficulty with this game because of how the action system works, and they gotta really think about, do they want to do this first, but I think for players like me, or players who play at like national, regional levels of getting top 8, top seeding, whatever, it was super easy for me to come into this, and I immediately saw the ground up build work of this game, where what I mean by that is, okay, like the fundamentals is essentially the leader is a huge mechanic, right? Pinpoint the big things. The base, cool, it's a resource. That's all it is. Your base is an extra resource. Your leader is a big part of this game. The whole game is built around a huge spike of when your leader comes out, and it spikes very heavily, which is why games close out extremely quicker. Because you get to play this like 7 or 6 cost guy who's really hard to deal with, really quickly. And then sometimes people do that against me, and I already have thought of a way to deal with it, because that's what my entire like plan is built around, is I have to deal with the opponent's leader, the Boba Fett, the Vaders, the Lukes. I can't just let the leader stay on the board. It's way too powerful. And then when I gain the leader advantage against my opponent because they played theirs, I just keep mine, because in the back of their heads I know that I have my leader on turn 7, 8, 9. I can bring it out when they're really in trouble and just blow open the game, because when you're in that late game and your leader has already died, you don't have much to do. It's kind of a back and forth. But when your opponent is really out of stuff and you have a little bit of an edge, you can bring your leader out, make a big hole, and just close out the game right then and there. Or if they get a lucky like Avenger or something crazy going on, you can bring your leader out then, try to deal with it, try to do damage to it, try to close out the game, or a strong ground unit, and it's a backup. If they get luckier than you do, quicker. And then there's other thing about resourcing. I think the big thing in this game about resourcing is where people struggle quite a bit, because in Magic it's like you put down lands. In Yu-Gi-Oh you don't have any resources. In like Hearthstone, other games, you just kind of always have resources building upon. And in this game, people have not yet, the general popularity have not yet decided that, hey, I'm going to keep my Imperial Interceptor in my hand, if not 2 of them from the very beginning of the game, because I'm versing a Leia deck. I'm versing a Sabine deck, and their best cards are like red 3s and A1s and whatnot, and I need this card to win this matchup. So what they'll do is say it's a 4 cost, I'm going to put it into my resource. And then they lose the game and they don't really know what to do. For me, I played a game earlier today, and I kept 2 Palpatines. Well, I kept 1 Palpatine and I do the other one from the very start of the game. And I told my opponent, I had this Palpatine from the very beginning, because I knew I was gonna play this card and the game was gonna go late because I was playing Darth Vader, and they were playing Palpatine as their leader, and I knew the game was gonna go late. And guess what? I'd had to drop the first Palpatine and the second Palpatine to close out the game, and they had no chance because I put, basically a lot more value or foresight into just keeping bigger cards, better cards for the end game, knowing I'm gonna get there. And they didn't have the same amount of big stuff. And this is something I see with other people, that when they put Darth Vaders or their own Palpatines or Avengers into resource very early on, and then they proceed to not have it later into the game. And then they realize I actually lost this game because I didn't expect it to go this late, or I didn't expect this to happen, or I didn't draw into my third Vader. It's well, I just should be hey man, you're not gonna draw all 3 Vaders in a game, but if you had kept that one from earlier, you would have 100% won the game, because as you guys know from listening to me or playing against me, I don't own Vaders, but I utilize my other cards way more effectively, and I know the problem is my opponent's Vaders, so I'll purposely make a plan of dealing with it and winning my games through that. And that's one of the ways that I worse you all the time. And what is it that you would say? That I always have all the answers in my hand, the right cards at all the times, and it really pisses you off, right?
Yeah, well, you're a cheater.
Yeah, exactly. He says I'm cheating, but all I'm doing is I'm resourcing carefully and much more accurately to what I'm going to need at some point in the game to basically gain the tempo back. And I don't think people have talked about tempo in this game at all, but I think that's what it is. What tempo in this game is going to be is, it's like the point where your opponent plays a Yoda, and then the next turn they play Yoda's lightsaber and put a shield token onto it with Luke the other turn. And now you play Traitors and you steal it. That is a huge tempo swing. Even if Yoda did let's say 4 or 5 damage to your base, when you Traitors his Yoda with a shield token and Luke's lightsaber, that guy is gonna be sweating buckets, dude. He's gonna be oh my god. And some people have just conceded the game on the spot or gotten upset about this, because they're trying to do what Luke wants them to do, and they know Traitors is in the deck. They played against me before, or they played other people, and they just really get pissed off at Traitors. The point is, don't get pissed off at Traitors. Anticipate your opponent having this card, and don't put don't buff up your Yoda to become a god and then have it get stolen away. Same thing with I'm sure we all experienced the whole, okay, am I gonna give an XP token to this guy all onto one unit, or am I gonna give the XP to my leader? Am I gonna attack first, or am I gonna play a buffing card first and then swing for more damage? So be much more careful, and when you do resource next time, think about, what cards am I gonna need in this matchup to basically gain a little bit of an edge. And if the game's gonna go late, you're versing a Vader, you're versing Palpatine, you're versing is it not Tarkin, the yellow guy, Thrawn.
Yeah.
If the game's gonna go late, keep more of your 8-7 cost cards in your hand, and don't worry about not playing something quick. If you don't have a turn 3 play, you just have 2 drops. Just play the 2-drop and just pass. It's not gonna be a big deal. You're not gonna lose the game because the guy's done 6 damage to you because you didn't play a card in the first turn. You're gonna win the game because you have more Palpatines in your hand than he does. More Vaders in your hand the opponent does. And that's all it's gonna take. Another thing that I want to quickly touch on is, I've been, and you played against me a lot, or a decent amount, and the people on the Discord server in the community, and I always gave the initiative away. Always. Well, not always, but 95% of the time I give the initiative away. And the reason for this is because I learned this because I'm an aggro player, and I play Inquisitor and I play Sabine when I play aggro. Obviously, that's all we can really play at the moment. And what I do is I give the initiative away because those decks are generally not going to have the initiative counter because they're trying to activate their leader, so they have more actions than their opponent does. Ultimately, they have to play more cards than their leader. The opponent takes the initiative token away pretty much the whole time. And there is a benefit to this of giving the initiative away, and I want you guys to all go out there and play 10, 20 games and just give the initiative to your opponent from the very beginning and see how the game changes and how you play it out. The things that I see is that they play a card. Let's say they play Sabine in the first turn. If I don't want to take damage, because I know the win condition against Sabine is keep your health as high as possible until they're out of stuff to do, I will immediately take the initiative, go up to 3 resources, and play an open fire, killing their Sabine, thus taking no damage. And then they have to play another unit, and then guess what? I take the initiative, we go to turn 4, I play Imperial Interceptor, and I blow up their red 3. And then they look at me like, okay, the game is already done because they've just spent all this time playing cards. We're going to like our 5th resource, turn 4, and they're like, well, what am I supposed to do? And then when they play out their Sabine, Power of the Dark Side if you're playing Aiden, or you just go Force Choke if you're playing Vader, and there goes their Sabine, right? It's just straight up gone. And they've done basically no damage to your base. Now the other thing is when you are playing the aggressive decks, and let's say you're versing a Leia, okay, and I'm playing Grand Inquisitor, I will keep Inferno 4 in my hand, and I will keep, let's say, the Scout Bike Pursuer. If they go air, I can either choose to match them, because I'm trying to keep their damage lower than me, lower onto me, or I can go to the other side and be like, hey, you played a good ground unit in Sabine. I cannot compete against that. I will go into the air and pressure you with damage while I wait for my other cards to come out, and I'll try to control the board on the other side later on. And if I can put out my Scoutback Pursuer after they play a Sabine, then they won't realize it. They play Sabine, I play Scoutback Pursuer, I Inquisitor, activating it, giving it a shield token, swinging into the Sabine, killing it, having it get on the board while they don't. Now this does use up my base, obviously, but end of the day, they're not doing damage to me. And a lot of people nowadays are running 30 bases, so they don't even have ECL, they don't have all of these other things. That's pretty much how it goes. And the 30 bases are troublesome for aggressive decks and whatnot. And guys, on the 30 base, I think full control decks can run 30 bases fine. But the reason why you see the top decks all having Energy Conversion Lab, all having essentially a epic action base, is because that extra Energy Conversion Lab, 25 health, when you do ambush a card in, you are negating some damage onto your base by killing their card that was readied, or that is going to swing at you next turn. So don't consider this as a 25 health. Do consider how much life you are saving by actually gaining that action. The best example is the yellow base. When you pop the yellow base, it gives -4. Essentially what that is telling you is that you have 29 life, not 25. Missing out on 1 or 2 health or 3 health on your base is not a big deal. What the big deal is going to be is using your epic action to make the most use, sometimes gaining significantly more health than you would have by just having an extra flat 5. So make use of your bases a lot more and start thinking about how to, think differently about how much life you actually have. He's very silent.
This is why he's the coach, ladies and gents. The guy he's just got a lot of information. Let that soak in for a little bit, huh? Coach, it's great information. We really, honestly, man, I really appreciate you taking the time to do this podcast with me. We had a lot of fun. I hope you had fun. I had fun.
I had fun.
We're gonna cut it at the hour 13-ish mark, hour 15, because we really do want to get your guys' opinion. Do you want to do the long form, 2+ hours for those long commutes? Do you guys really want to hear us talk? Coach, as you can tell, he has a lot to say about the game, and I love listening to it, and I'm sure there's people out there who would appreciate it as well. So if you want us to do that, we can definitely provide that for you. That being said, if you like a little bit less talking and whatnot, and you just want us to get to the juice of it, because I think at the end of the day, 1 hour forces us to get to the juice, to the meat and the crux, right? That's why an hour is really good, because it kind of forces us to have to get everything within that time frame. 2 hours kind of allows us to linger, because 2 hours is a long time, and we have to find filler we can't just go on forever. Otherwise, about like, card reviews. Like, what are we going to do that for an hour long? Like, no, we have to eventually move on to the next subject. And I don't know, maybe you like to hear the banter. Totally okay with doing that. But we want to know from you personally. Coach, before we go though, tell them about what you want to do in terms of like ask coach a question thing.
Oh yeah, so there's some people reached out to me after the first, the feedback from the first podcast, which is great for us. Got lots of people like, telling us to like the podcast and all this stuff, and some people wanted to ask questions or do like, wanted to ask me about their decks and what cards they're adding in or taking out, whatever. And what I wanted to do was do like a coach's corner thing at the end or beginning or wherever we kind of timestamp it in. Where you guys hit us with the questions in the chat where you're either struggling or like, what do you guys think about this card? Whatever question you might have. And then I'll try to answer them and we'll like talk about it and have a discussion about those questions. So it'd be nice if you guys, tell us what you want to hear or ask us the question that you might want to ask, your local community or some other YouTubers and everybody else who's doing podcasts or just putting out content. And then I'm gonna definitely look at those, read them, and then answer them on the episode 3. So I'm looking forward to reading all of these comments on, how do I use my base better? What leader should I play? Do you think Darth Vader sucks? I never get value out of Aura like Barrage, or like, the typical, hey man, I had 3 Darth Vaders and they were at the bottom of my deck and I lost the game because of it. But like, no, you probably lost the game because of something else. And a lot of people do know that I play like, probably like 500 games of Inquisitor now. I've been mostly playing Vader recently. And if you have Grand Inquisitor questions, like let me know what I think about the hero, or like what card should I add in, and how much I hate Rugged. What is that card called? Rugged Survivors. I hate that card so much. I want to burn it. And yeah, so just that's pretty much what I wanted to know is Coach's Corner. Just ask me questions and I'll try to answer them.
Sassy. You heard it here first, folks. Coach's Corner, the dude just has a lot of information. Coach has been really a lot of people too like get really weird about giving you information. Like Coach wants to teach people how to get better at these games. I'm a proud student of his, still learning the game, still learning the ropes, but Coach has a lot of good things to say, and I think that's why we hit it off so well too, because he's just a very good dude, very good, very understanding too. He's not gonna make you feel like an idiot. This was our second episode, guys. Comment, like, subscribe, do all the fun stuff because it tells YouTube that you're enjoying the content and you want to see more of it. Gives them more reason to put us in the algorithm, more impressions, more people are watching, and obviously the more people that subscribe to us will give us more incentive to continue to make these. Regardless, I think we're going to make them because we have a lot of fun doing it and we really do enjoy, even if a few people commented per video, we just really enjoy reaching out to the community and talking about one of our favorite hobbies, and that would be card gaming. Coach, do you want to leave them with anything before we finish episode 2 of Barrage This?
Nope, nothing at the moment, but I think I might have a sponsor or someone to shout out for the third stream. So I'll get into contact with them and talk to you about it, and then we'll probably have some shout outs to do, maybe about local game stores or other things and other people that we know.
Yeah, real funny too if you guys are interested, and who knows. I like to design my own card games / board games on the side. I actually introduced Coach into one of the games that I created, which is a Call of Duty 4 card game. What the hell is that? Well, I would love to show you guys one day, but if you're interested in seeing something like that and me and Coach just like while we're talking, we're kind of going head to head in like something really like that I designed or created, I think that'd be kind of like a fun and engaging thing. But let us know below what you liked. Coach's Corner, if you have questions for our next video, ask questions. Yeah, like Coach just gave you a whole mouthful of different things that you can ask him. Like definitely just like ask away, ask stupid stuff, ask stuff that's been on your mind, anything. Okay, that's the whole point. And that's it. We appreciate you guys tuning in for our second episode, and going forward we're gonna be doing this, releasing a new episode every Friday at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. So we're gonna actually probably be recording on Wednesdays and then releasing them on Friday. If that works for you, Coach.
That works for me.
Guys, thanks for watching. We will see you on the next one. Everybody have a good week and a good weekend. Be safe out there.